Nice to be back here again. I'm Dino Tata. I live here in Southbridge. I work with NASA. I'm one of what they call a solar system ambassador. And my job is to do what I'm doing right now, to spread the missions of NASA, to increase interest in science and space travel, and when anything special happens in the sky, to inform the public of what's going on, so that they'll be well informed and be able to do what they have to do to see it. This is all about an eclipse and how to watch it safely. We've had eclipses like this one here in Southbridge before. In 2017 we had one. And it didn't cover the sun as much as this. It was more like this. And later on in the program there'll be a picture of it so you can see. And this time will be similar in the respect that we'll see about 90% of the eclipse. That means a couple of things. That means it will not get pitch dark out here. The animals will not go to sleep, the birds will not go roosting. But if you observe it, you might see some that are tired and do go to sleep. So, anyhow, it's a real phenomenon, astronomical phenomenon. It's been going on for billions of years. It happens about 7 times a year somewhere in the world. It only happens in the same area on rare occasions. It's going to be on April 8th and between 2:15 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. And so if you go out about noon, just in case my numbers are wrong, take a quick look and see, but I think you'll find these are pretty accurate numbers. Here's how it looks beginning to end. It starts right here with just a little bit of the sun being eaten, then more. This section here we call the diamond ring. You won't see that here in Southbridge, unfortunately, because that's the prelude to totality. Totality being the entire sun eclipse. We call it a diamond ring for the obvious reason. It looks like one. And this is what totality looks like. You've got the sun, and then this is the corona. Now the sun is a strange beast. It, temperature-wise, if you go down into the core, it's millions of degrees hot. But if you go on the surface, it's only 10,000 degrees. Every now and then you see a little black spot on the sun. That's what we call a sunspot. That's only about 5,000 degrees. But you can fit the Earth into it twice. They're usually that big. In the corona, all of a sudden, here's what's strange. The corona goes back up to millions of degrees. We really don't know why, except for it's a gaseous outburst. But we have 3 or 4 satellites circling all the time, examining what's happening on the sun and trying to figure out why. And the eclipse is of particular interest to us because you can't just stare at the sun. But during the total eclipse, you can see what's going on around it. So we pick up a lot of good scientific information, and later in the program I'll give you a couple examples. After totality, it starts to shrink again. The sun comes back to life till finally you get the full sun once again. That process from start to finish is about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But the totality is about 4.5 minutes. So how does it happen? Well, it's the conjunction of the sun, the moon, and the earth. And they all have to be lined up perfectly in that straight line. So the sun, the shadow of the moon, travels over the earth. Now, the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. So how can something that small blot out something 400 times bigger? Well, as it is, the moon's also 400 times closer to the earth than the sun. So it's a matter of distance. And if you take your fist, hold it out in front of you, in front of that slide, you can still see it, all the slide. You pull that fist close to your eyes, you can't see the slide anymore. That's the same thing with the moon. It's a matter of distance. Now that's fine for today, but it won't be fine forever, because the moon is moving away from the earth 1.5 inches a year. Been doing that for billions of years. And it's about 8 3/4 feet over a 70-year lifetime. Now, we use big numbers in space, billions, trillions, because that's what space is. It's huge. And sometimes people have a hard time imagining how big is a billion. I try to put it into perspective here. This is not a religious comment, but just a name we all know. 1 billion minutes ago, Jesus Christ walked the earth. So that's how long a billion is, how big a billion is. 4.5 billion years ago, the moon was only 15,000 miles from the earth, and the day on earth was 5 hours long. The earth was spinning faster, the moon could go around faster because it had a shorter distance to cover. Today it's 238,000 miles from Earth, and our day is 24 hours and a fraction. And as time goes by, that will change as well. Continue the progression was started 4.5 billion years ago. So then 500 to 600 million years from now, the moon will be too far away to totally eclipse the sun. They'll be all partial eclipses, but there will be one day when it comes where it will be the last total eclipse of the sun. Now the moon will never drift away from us. Once it gets its speed and its mass balance with the gravitational force of the moon and the earth, it will find its home. It will stay in orbit at that distance. And I really can't tell you what that distance would be. So why don't they happen every month? Well, the moon's orbit is tilted. So as I said, the three of them have to be in line. So they cross every month, but they're not in line every month. And the single most important thing to know about watching an eclipse is one simple thing. Never look directly at it without eye protection, except during totality. Because even if there's just a diamond ring effect, the sun is so brilliant, that's enough to light up the earth. It's enough to let the harmful rays of the sun come through. The sunlight is like a spectrograph. There's all different levels of light. Some of them are okay. Your eyes can handle it, no problem. Some destroy your retina. Some destroy the optic nerves. So if you look directly at it, you're getting all of them. But if you look at it with eye protection, you're eliminating the bad solar rays. And this is totality, and this is about what you'll see here in Southbridge. So you see, with all that you should see, it will never be safe in Southbridge to look at this thing without eye protection. You can take a quick glance if you want, but you're taking a chance on the rays. And your eyesight is something you really never ever want to risk. So these are the cities of Massachusetts and the percentage of it they're going to see. I outlined Worcester, 93.6%, because of all the cities, that's the closest one to Southbridge. So that's why I think you'll see about a 90% of it. Even though you're not going to see totality, it is so well worth viewing. It is so well worth viewing. The last one we had in 2017, I got my scope and I went to the Worcester Ecotarium, and they had a special event. I had 800 people look through my scope at it through a telescope. And don't want to give you the wrong idea, the telescope had a filter for the sun, a very specialized one. So you could see the thing, and it was just amazing to see up close. But these are the best cities to see, and you're right here in Massachusetts. And this eclipse travels pretty fast across the world. It'll travel 2,142 miles from where it enters in Texas and leaves in Maine. And this shows when you need a protection. So this is the eclipse from start to finish again. This is the partial. In here, you need protection. And on the exit, you need protection. The only time you don't is when it's total. And that only lasts about 4 to 4.5 minutes. Now these are an example of solar eclipse glasses, and they look like the old 3D glasses from when us 80-year-olds were kids. And they're made out of paper and mylar, and you think, well, these are just cheap things. They're not. They are scientifically made glasses. The lenses are treated with chemicals that eliminate the harmful rays of the sun. So you can't just pick up anything and do it. These glasses are very good for it. When you go to use your glasses, hold them up to the light and just look through them like this. If you see a pinhole of light or a crack in the lens, rip them up and throw them away. Don't use them, because even a pinhole, you're still letting harmful rays through. It's going to begin in Dallas, Texas, is where it'll first enter the United States after plowing up through Mexico. And it'll exit the United States at Caribou, Maine, about 4:40 p.m. Again, right on the edge of Canada up there. It crosses the poles at 5,000 miles an hour, and the equator, which we're closer to that than the poles, at 1,000 miles an hour. And the reason for that, of course, is the equator has to go this far around, but at the poles it's just a much shorter distance it has to cover. So it's average speed of 1,993 miles an hour going by. You won't notice that speed, of course, because the Earth is rotating as well. The next total eclipse after this will be August of 2044, so you should get your reservations now. But they have favorite months and least favorite months to appear. The most of the favorite month is May, and the least favorite is November. And they come more in May and less in November. Why? I have no idea, but it has to have something to do with the orbits of the three bodies. So the 4 tips to remember: don't look directly at the sun. Sunglasses won't provide protection. If you're a welder, you can use a number 14 welder's glass, or create a pinhole projector with a cardboard box. And never, never use sunglasses. They don't work. I know some people last time put 5 or 6 pairs of sunglasses together, and it dimmed the effect, but it didn't stop the harmful rays. They're just fooling themselves thinking they're protecting their eyes that way. Well, Here's how you can see it safely without even looking at it. These are what we call shadow makers. A telescope on a tripod. The sun goes right in the end point and comes right out here and reflects on that piece of white paper down there. Now you see that there has just a little notch out of it? That's because the eclipse has already started. So it's going to reflect on that paper exactly what you would see if you look straight at it. And there's a larger picture of it. A simple binocular method of doing it: put the lens cap on one of the eyepieces, and just use the other piece, shine it on a piece of paper, and you can see he's got the sun half eclipsed right there. This is one of the safest ways you can do it. Just 2 sheets of paper. Put a pinhole in the first piece, not a big hole, just a pinhole the size of a pencil will do fine. Hold the other piece below it and the sun will shine right through onto it. You're standing facing away from the sun because the sun's got to come over your shoulder and face on it. With viewing glasses, you've got to look for things like the Sun Safe Legend or the ISO certification, and that's usually here and on the lens. But these are not to be used with a telescope, with binoculars, or glasses, a camera. These are meant strictly for the human eye. That's what they're geared for. And this is what the sun will look like to you. It'll look like a great big orange in the sky. I don't know if it's a clementine or a navel or whatever, but it's one of those oranges. Now, some people who have solar heat may notice a dip in performance for just a few minutes, but absolutely no harm, no damage, whatever, to your system. As soon as the bright sun is back, your system will go right back up to where it was. But if you see it dip just a little bit during the eclipse, don't worry about it. It's going to come back soon. So here's how to make your own personal eclipse viewer. For those of you who have children or grandchildren, these next 2 exercises are a wonderful, wonderful way to get them a little interested in science of astronomy, in how an eclipse operates. And they are very, very easy, and you don't have to go out and buy a thing. The first one is this. You need a cereal box, white paper, silver foil, pencil glue, scissors, and tape. From that, we'll make one. So the first thing you do is cut a sheet of white paper a bit smaller than the bottom panel of the cereal box. Just a little bit smaller. Put some glue on it and then stuff it down there and glue it to the bottom of the box. That'll be your projection screen, and the sun will be projected onto that. Then you cut the ends off, this end and that end, and tape this piece together so the box stays closed. Get a piece of silver foil and cover one side. Now, the one I made with the kids was 4 by 4 inches. That's all it took, so a very little silver foil. That's going to be the eyepiece through which the sun shines. Take a pencil and make a small pinhole. Now, if you work with the kids, they tend to grab the pencil and go stab, right? They're going to rip the aluminum foil all to heck. So just put it up against it and push it through gently. The sharper point on the pencil, the better it'll be. And then when you look at it, you look through the side. You're going to stay with your back facing the sun. You aim down. Now, the first thing most people do when they do this, you have a natural tendency to go like this. You're not going to see anything. You turn your back to the sun, put that in face down, and you may have to move it a little bit like that a couple of times until the sun shines through. But when the sun shines through, you'll see exactly what there is in the sky. Now, the kid might want to decorate it. You can use Christmas wrap, birthday wrap, gift wrap. But if you want a real spacey, go on your computer and Google space images. You'll get things like this. It's an 8 by 10 page. It takes 3 pages to cover the box. So you can actually put a nice space theme on it. This one is the easiest one in the world. And it's a good one to use because they're not going to see totality. It's not going to happen here. But you can have them draw a picture of totality all by themselves. You need a piece of dark paper. I'm using black here, but you can use black, blue, red, green, as long as it's a dark color, a deep color. You need a piece of chalk, which most kids have. And this is a cap of a bottle of tomato sauce. You can use tomato sauce cap. You can use a can of tuna fish, a can of tomato paste. You want something about 3 inches wide. It doesn't have to be exactly 3. 2 3/4, 3 1/4 is fine, but that's a general thing. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the circle on the black paper, take your chalk and draw circles around it. And this is what it looks when you take the cap off. Don't go around just once, go around 4 or 5 times. You want a nice thick layer of chalk. And then you take your finger and just go like this, all the way around it. And that spreads it out. Don't do the, okay, that makes paste. That makes paste. You want a dry finger. And that's what you end up with. Now, if you want to see if this is realistically look like totality, there you are. Not bad. Really not bad at all. So, and here is the very easiest, the least expensive and simplest way to make a solar equipment viewer. Get 2 paper plates, put a hole in one, hold them in front of each other, back to the sun, and right there's the image of the sun, exactly as it shows. And once again, you're going to be aiming downward. Solar eclipse has scientific uses for us. Helium was discovered during a total solar eclipse by Jules Janssen. He's a French astrophysicist. We verified Einstein's theory of general relativity during eclipse. His theory was that light will bend when it's faced with a big mass. We call it gravitational lensing. If we're looking at a mass of galaxies all in one place, we can actually see some of the stars behind that galaxy that are blocked by it. Because the sun rays just keep going in all directions. As they come to go around that galaxy, the gravitational effects of those galaxies is so strong, it bends the light. And what happens, we end up with the picture of that star on both sides. So we have to, when we do that, we have to recognize that this is the galaxy and this is just a duplicate. So, but that was proved during one. Now there are a lot of myths and beliefs. And thousands of years ago, the people were still very primitive, and they believed there was a god or a spirit behind every single bush. No matter what happened, the gods did it or spirits did it. Your own ancient cultures had 20 gods or 30 gods. And if anything happened in the sky, it was an omen. Usually if you see something like a comet, it means either king is going to be born or king is going to die, a war is going to ensue, the war is going to end. So they believed a lot of things happen with it. So we're going to explore just a few of these eclipses. The ancient Chinese believed that a solar eclipse occurred when a legendary celestial dragon ate the sun. Now, all the courts, the royal courts in those days had the royal astronomers. Part of their job was to protect the king from anything bad happening in the sky. And 4 millennia ago, 2 Chinese astrologers were murdered for not predicting a solar eclipse. So the emperor felt he was at risk because he couldn't protect himself. In Hindu mythology, Rahu is known for swallowing the sun and causing eclipses. Now the common thread of all these things, whether something eats the sun or destroys it, none of them ever explain why the sun came back. Norse cultures blamed wolves for eating the sun. In Korean folklore suggests solar eclipses happen because mythical dogs are trying to steal the sun. And I thought, what better dogs than Queen Elizabeth's dogs? If the Queen's dogs can't eat the sun, who can? People thought they could scare the eclipse away. They'd go outside with pots and pans and bang them, and they'd yell, they'd ring bells, make all kinds of noise. It worked. They did it for 4 minutes, the sun came back.
That's the only one that did work. Huh?
Yeah, so it proves their theory. Now how can you enjoy it? Well, birds may go to roost. It might get a few degrees colder. Some animals may go to bed, crickets may start chirping. The effect in this area is going to be very limited because you're not getting totality. It takes totality to really make all this happen. But another thing you can do is watch the TV news programs and predictions, compare them just for your own enjoyment with the actual events of what actually happened. Now on the TV news, this information, as you get closer, will be given by the regular broadcast, but usually it's the weatherman that does that, because this is an important part of a weatherman's job. This I put in especially for the kids because they can get frightened of it. Nothing's going to happen. All you're going to notice is the eclipse. It's not going to hurt the sun, it's not going to hurt the moon, it's not going to hurt the earth, it's not going to hurt you. Your life will not change. You'll still have to pay your bills, go to work. So I put this in just so I don't want kids leaving the program frightened. This is Dr. Bill Baer, an astrophysicist at Johns Hopkins. He said there's no inherent danger from the eclipse as long as people don't look directly at the sun before totality. And this sort of hits what the only real danger is: people looking without protection, or worse than that, people driving down the street and looking like this at the sun. A lot of towns have canceled school that day or that afternoon because it happens when school is being dismissed. So they're afraid the kids will go out and watch it without supervision. But if they get the day off, they're home, the parents will supervise them. At the same time, that's the commute. So there'll be a lot of traffic on the road anyway. So they're really afraid something lousy will happen, and that's just to protect the kids. To learn more about this, just Google NASA 2024 eclipse, and you can find out a whole lot about it. Now this is just a little fun thing. There are only 10 questions here, and it's just trivia. And I got to tell you, the kids in the schools like this part better than the rest of it. So the first one, when was the last total solar eclipse over New England? 2017. What element was discovered? When is it safe to look at the sun without eye protection? Now, when's the next solar eclipse in our area? How far does the shadow travel? Where does it enter USA? Where does it exit the USA? What's the most likely month to have one? What's the least likely month to have one? And this is the last one. What's the average speed across USA? Anyway, that concludes the presentation. I want to thank you all for your attention.